Okay, this is lesson 5, representing proportional relationships with equations. So some things we need to know before we go through and learn about our equation are key ideas of things we've learned about in the past couple days. So the first thing we need to remember is that the constant of proportionality is represented by the constant or the variable k. Since we have a variable k, a unit rate becomes k or creates a proportional relationship when it is the same for all pairs. Meaning my x and y, when I divide, give us the same thing. The constant of proportionality we know is the letter k, where k equals y divided by x. Since we have that formula, we have an equation in the form of y equals k times x, where k is my constant of proportionality. Now, what would be very helpful for this lesson is if you have a highlighter with you, so it's going to be easier to see things when we highlight our constant of proportionality and plug it in. So let's go to our first example. It says Casey and her 3 friends attend a movie. The total cost of the tickets was $28. What is the cost per ticket? Okay, so cost per ticket. I know that k equals y divided by x, and in this case, cost should be on the top and tickets should be on the bottom, because I'm just writing that in the same order that I read it. Casey and her 3 friends, that would be a total of 4 people because it's 1 plus 3, Casey and her 3 friends. And it was a total of $28, so 28 divided by 4. That's going to give me $7. Since I know that each ticket was $7, I can write an equation that's going to specifically represent this situation. That equation should be in the form always y equals k times x. When I go to rewrite this, here's where your highlighter comes in handy. 7 is what we found k to be. So therefore, I'm going to take 7 and just replace it in that formula with k. So y equals 7 times x. Looking at the next exercise, it says the cost of 4 apples at the store is $5. I'm going to have you pause the video and try this one on your own. Look at what we just did in the first example together and follow the same steps. Unpause when you're ready to check. Okay, we are looking for the cost per apple. K equals y divided by x, and we know that it is money over apples. So $5 divided by 4. $1.25. That is the value that I'm going to go ahead and plug in for my equation. Remember the equation in the form of y equals k times x. I'm going to replace k with my unit rate that I just found. Everything else stays exactly the same. The only thing that changes is k. So x and y are variables that should stay as variables unless we are using them to solve. Right, next page. It says, do we have enough gas to make it to the gas station? Your mother has accelerated onto the interstate, beginning a long road trip, and you notice that the low fuel light is on, indicating that there is half a gallon left in the gas tank. The nearest gas station is 26 miles away. Your mother keeps a log where she records the mileage and the number of gallons purchased each time she fills up the tank. Use the information in the table below to determine whether you will make it to the gas station before the gas runs out. You know that if you can determine the amount of gas that our car consumes in a particular number of miles, then you can determine whether or not you'll make it to the gas station. All right, so we've got a chart here with gallons and miles driven. First thing it says is find the constant of proportionality and explain what it represents in this situation. So I know that k equals y divided by x, because the constant of proportionality is K. In order to do that, my units, when I look up here, remember we're labeling X, then Y. So I'm going to have miles divided by gallons. And I'm just going to go through and make sure they all give me the same thing within my table to make sure it's really proportional. So 224 divided by 8. Plug that into your calculator and divide. Should give us 28. 280 divided by 10. Plugging that into my calculator should also give us 28. And the last one, 112 divided by 4 should also give us 28. So that tells me that K equals 28. And don't forget, we also need to explain what it represents in this situation. This tells me that the car gets 28 miles every 1 gallon of gas. All right, now it says write our equation that's going to relate our miles to the number of gallons of gas. So they give us our equation over here. I'm going to plug in my unit rate, or my constant of proportionality, K. So Y equals 28X. Part C. Knowing that there is half a gallon left in the gas tank, will she make it to the gas station? So in order to figure this out, we're going to find out how far they can go with that half gallon of gas. Half a gallon would be 1/2 or 0.5. And we know, based on our chart up here, that gallons has to do with our X variables. That means that we're going to take 1/2 and plug it in for X in our formula. Y equals 28 times X. Y equals 28 times 1/2. And I'm going to figure out how far she can go on that half gallon. So 28 times 1/2 equals 14 miles. So I'm using my equation to solve questions. She will not make it to the gas station because she does not have enough gas in the gas tank. There are not enough miles left based on the gas in the tank. Because remember, the nearest gas station is 26 miles away. All right, letter D. Using this equation, determine how far she could go with 18 gallons of gas. Again, gallons of gas is X, so we're going to plug in 18 to that equation where X is. So 28 times X, Y equals 28 times 18. And we're going to multiply those together. 28 times 18 would be 504 miles. Part E, using the equation, determine how many gallons would be needed to travel 756 miles. So miles is Y. So we're going to plug in 756 for Y this time. So our equation, Y equals 28 times X. I'm going to leave that equation the same. Only thing that's changing is 756 is replacing Y. And now I have to solve this for X. This is a one-step equation. I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign. 28 times X in order to move that coefficient away from my x, I have to use the opposite operation. So opposite of multiplication is division. So divide both sides by 28. 28 divided by 28 is 1, which is y. I can cancel those out. And 756 divided by 28 is going to give me 27 gallons. Next page. It says, Andrea is a street artist in New Orleans. She draws caricatures of tourists. People have their portrait drawn and then come back later to pick it up from her. The table shows the relationship between the number of portraits she draws and the amount of time she needs to draw the portraits. Okay, first one says to determine the constant of proportionality. I would like you to pause the video and please try A, B, and C and D on your own. When you are all set, please unpause and check. All right, to determine the constant of proportionality is the value or the variable k. K equals y divided by x. In our chart, always label x first, then y. So number of portraits is our y variable, and the time is represented with our x variable when we're working on this formula specifically. So I'm going to divide. 3 divided by 2 should have given you 1.5. 6 divided by 4 should also give you 1.5. And 9 divided by 6 is also 1.5. That tells us that k equals 1.5. Explaining what it means in the context of the situation. That's asking us, what does 1.5 tell us? Well, that tells us that Andrea draws 1.5 portraits every hour. So in an hour, she gets through 1.5 portraits. Write the equation that represents this. So y equals k times x. I'm going to replace k with my constant of proportionality. Y equals 1.5 times x. If Andrea spends 12 hours drawing, how many portraits has she completed? We're going to use our formula, y equals 1.5 times x, and 12 hours, remember time is the x variable in this situation, so y equals 1.5 times 12. If she has 12 hours, she can get through 18 portraits. All right, that is all for this lesson. Good luck on your homework.